Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson, and today we are joined by Lee Jones of Sorciety. Lee, welcome. Did I say that right?
You did, mate.
Okay.
And thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Bit of trivia for everyone listening at home. You've seen Lee's posts on LinkedIn. He's a direct recruiter in Australia, based out of Melbourne, but I think he services the whole of Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what you don't know about him, probably, is he's an avid lacrosse player. How did you get into that, Lee?
Oh, mate, bit of a random one. There's a few clubs around the area where I grew up. They were doing clinics at our primary school, and next thing you know, I've been playing for 20 odd years. I should probably give it up because every week at my age, it's a new injury.
It's all right, mate. Scoring goals on the weekend, closing candidates during the week. Mate, life can't be better.
If only it was that easy, Brett.
Look, quickly, correct me. So you do rec for, I know Melbourne and I know Sydney. Is that sort of where you play, or do you go broader?
Yeah, we do go the whole of the country, but I think, you know, like a lot of recruiters, we follow where the work is. So I would say that, you know, 95% of our work is across Eastern Seaboard, across Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane.
Well, that's actually a great leading question. Where's the work at the moment? Where are recruiters needed right now?
Recruiters are needed everywhere and always. Is what we all should be saying as a collective. But I think, you know, job flow for Sorciety at the moment is relatively strong. I think, you know, look, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane is where a lot of our recruitment is done. But I think at the same time, for good candidates or good recruiters looking for roles, there's still plenty of options across, you know, smaller cities like Canberra. Gold Coast is another one where there's a lot more happening, and of course Adelaide and Perth.
So it's good to hear that the market's strong for recruiters. That makes me excited because obviously then markets are going well. Is this a broad stroke, or are there still pockets of pain like in IT and things like that? Are you seeing that come back yet?
Yeah, I think there is some pockets out there that are still a little bit quiet, but I also think there's others that are starting to recover. I think if we look at the tech market in particular, you know, tech recruiters had a really hard time over the last kind of 12 months, but we're certainly starting to see that pick up, and that's back on the rise. The other sector that's probably been that's copped it has probably been across banking and finance. More so any agencies that have got where a lot of their work was, say, with the big banks, insurers, superannuation, that kind of thing. But I think the good news is, you know, we're certainly seeing from a job flow perspective in the tech space in particular, that really ramp up. Seeing a lot of activity on LinkedIn with tech recruitment agencies, you know, putting the word out that they're looking to hire. So, you know, I think it looks like there's some recovery on the way for those areas that have struggled over the last 12 months.
Okay, wonderful. So tell me, companies will come to you and obviously say, we are looking for recruiters. Are they typically looking for recruiters who can fill seats, i.e. we've got the market, we've got the client, you've got a team, we just want to slot them in and plug and play? Or are they typically asking for, we want good recruiters who can bring a book of clients, that can sort of build a desk from scratch? Like, what are you seeing from the client side at the moment, or from the recruitment agency side at the moment, of what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think the main or the number one thing that every agency is looking for at the moment is recruiters who have the ability and, I guess, importantly, the willingness to do business development. I don't think there's too many, well, from what we're seeing anyway, I don't think there's too many desks out there in the market right now that are, you know, given that terminology of a hot desk. There's not too many markets out there where that is happening, right? So I think when agencies do come to us, yes, they need people for their desks, but more often than not, it's, yes, we have an existing client base, we have talent pools, there is some work, but we need people who are willing to do that business development, because if they're relying purely on inbound roles coming in, there's just not enough to sustain that person and for them to make commission.
Okay, so if that's what the companies are saying, let's flip it to the candidate side. Are they okay with this predicament, or are they asking for something different? Are they going, hey, I want a role where I can build a desk from scratch and I can bring my clients and do business development? Obviously, that would be the dream. Or are they saying something else?
Nah, look, and herein lies a problem, and what makes, I guess, my job really hard at the moment in terms of what agencies are looking for versus what recruiters are looking for are more often than not two completely different things. So I'd say this, and what we see in the market is the recruiters who are pretty established doing really, really well. Like any industry, if they're doing well, they're probably not going to leave or move.
Yes.
If they're doing well enough that they've got a really strong client base of their own that they could potentially leave and have that client base follow, we're probably seeing more of those recruiters start their own businesses rather than go to another agency. I would say the majority of the recruiters out there that are looking to leave, the reason that they are looking to leave is because they are finding it tough in their particular market. Therefore, wherever they're going, they want some inbound work and an easier ride than what they're currently on, which is fair enough, completely understandable. It's just that there's not a lot of those roles out there, unfortunately for them. So it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, okay. So let's just say you speak to a great senior recruiter who's got, 8, 10, 12 years, sort of sweet spot, right, under their belt, and you think, geez, like they've got a market, they've got a client base, they've got a strong reputation, they've got stable employment. When you move those people, or if you move those people, what is it that they end up leaving their company for, and what attracts them to the new place? Because it's not market. So I'd be curious to ask around that. And the point of that is to say, if you're a recruitment agency right now looking to attract talent, what do you need to be saying, doing, projecting out there that will appeal to these people?
Yeah, so I think there's, if you look at the reasons for leaving for most of the people that are active on the market, you could break it down and narrow it down to probably 3 or 4 things almost every single time. And more often than not, it comes down to either financial, in the fact that they're not making commission or they're looking for an increase in base salary. Or it's something to do with their work from home situation. That's probably the big one, if that flexibility and autonomy is not there. The other one is probably around leadership and management. So maybe they've had a change in manager, or manager has left, they've got a new manager they just don't really connect with or work with well. They're typically the main reasons people will leave in the role at the moment. In terms of, I guess, right now the market's at a point where salaries out there aren't huge, right? There's no one going out there offering massive dollars, massive salaries for recruiters. So, realistically, more often than not, if you're a 2 or 3 year recruiter, if you're going to go somewhere else, you're probably not going to get that massive payday or increase in salary. So, realistically, if you're going to leave, you want to make sure you're leaving for the right reasons and not just going from, one issue to another.
Where are salaries at the moment? Base salaries, not including super.
Yeah, but base salaries have probably stabilised over the last 12 months. And when I say stabilised, I should probably say they've gone back a little bit.
Okay.
And I guess to kind of put that into context, what happened is post-COVID, we had a bit of a boom in recruitment. And a lot of agencies and sectors were absolutely flying. Agencies were just looking to get as many recruiters into their agency as possible to make sure they could capitalise on the work and the job flow that they had. And to do that, it meant they were paying salaries way higher than they had for, say, the previous 2 or 3 years. So if we look at 2022, some of the salaries on offer were outrageous. And we're talking about, we were placing candidates with no recruitment experience at 75, 80K. Maybe they had some sales experience behind them. Recruiters with six months experience on 85 plus super. So there was some big salaries out there. Whereas now it's probably gone back to what it was pre-COVID, which doesn't really help because there's obviously cost of living pressures out there and inflation, which is, increased significantly since 2019. But salaries are probably back to what they were, base salaries anyway, are probably back to what they were pre-COVID. That said, I think there's still good salaries out there for the recruiters that have got maybe 4 or 5 years plus experience in a particular niche market. But I think for recruiters with maybe 2 to 4 years, unless you've been a really, really big biller in a particular market, the salary that you're going to get is probably not a lot more than what you're currently on.
So those 5-year experienced recruiters, like what are they asking for salary-wise at the moment?
Yeah, I think billings comes into it, but I think you'd be looking at something definitely starting at 100 grand. I think if you're a 5-6 year recruiter, that's probably where you'd be entering the market. Now, there's a few variables in that. I think that to get that kind of salary, you would be going to an agency doing pretty much the exact same desk in the same city, right? You've got your networks and your contacts.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're moving from Sydney to Melbourne, you might be able to maintain that salary, or Melbourne to Sydney, vice versa. But realistically, to get those big salaries, you're going to be stepping into a role in the same market where you can utilise your contacts and your networks.
Yeah, okay. And then look, just lastly, what are average billings at the moment? Like, what's the range from low performer to average performer to great performer to absolute superstar? Like, what does the range look like at the moment? It's so hard to keep track.
It is, and look, I think this is something that is really hard to track, and we kind of can only go off what we see and hear from our clients. But I think definitely what is considered good in the market now is lower than perhaps what it was 2 years ago, and once again, that's because we were in a bit of a boom. So I'd say, and look, at the moment, the market is pretty tough for a lot of sectors. A lot of sectors out there. So I would say, if you're a recruiter with maybe 2, 3, 4 years experience, you really should be doing at minimum kind of that 4 to 500k per year would be considered reasonably good in the current market.
Wow. Are we still seeing $1 million billers?
They are still out there. I think if we look at the $1 million billers that I know about, they are definitely the ones that have an established client base that have been around for a fair while. And it's no surprise that in recruitment, the longer that you're in it, the more that you're going to make. But certainly where I've seen probably, and for me it was really surprising, where I've seen some of the biggest billers over the last 12 months has been in one area in particular, and that's healthcare. There's a lot of recruiters out there recruiting in sectors like aged care, community care, nursing, and so forth that are absolutely just smashing some massive numbers out, which is to a certain extent, it's no big surprise considering the government investment into healthcare and aged care in particular post-pandemic.
Follow the money. Always follow the money.
And look, just on that, some of these agencies where these recruiters are working for are agencies that up until 2 or 3 years ago didn't touch that space, but they have kind of followed that investment from government and built some really successful desks and agencies, and well done to them, I say.
Love it. Lee, that's it. Wrap it up. Well done. I love it. That's great. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
It's always really hard to stop recruiters when I interview them because all we want to do is talk. All right, guys. If you got anything out of today's episode, please like, share, subscribe. Go and connect with Lee. He creates some amazing content, which is why we're talking. I get a good chuckle weekly out of what you're putting up. So keep doing that, Lee. And engage with it, like it, share it, subscribe. His stuff as well, because hey, we're all here to make each other grow. Have an amazing day, and as always, may all your deals come true.